Hi there. I am Adila. I am a manifestation coach, and I want to talk about This Is Your Story. This Is Your Story is the name of my business, and I named it this because we are telling stories about our life all the time that are out picturing in our world. And I'm going to be referencing my phone throughout the call. So, This Is Your Story is about everything you're experiencing. What I feel is important is to assess what you're telling yourself about every area of your life. So if someone were to ask you, how's your love life? You'd have a storyline, right? What would you say back? That's your love story. That's the story that you are telling about love. You are talking about your experiences in the area of love. If they're not what you desire, then all you have to do is decide what you want and to claim it as so now, even if you're not experiencing that day to day. When you talk about what do you do for a living, when someone asks you, what do you do every day? What do you do for a living? What is your response? That's your story about either your career or what you want to do in the future or what you're working towards. Or it could be nothing. That could also be your story. You can be wealthy and not work also. Okay? So, some responses that I came up with regarding that are just living a life that I enjoy, living life. I am paid to play. I am paid to play. That came from my mentor. Or just, I play all day, right? Imagine asking someone that. Imagine asking someone, what do you do for a living? And their answer is, I am paid to play. Or I play all day. What would what would that make you think about? Or for me, I'll be so curious. And I'll be like, play all day. They're not talking about work stress. They're not talking about, struggle. I have a business and it's struggling. Eventually, I want it to be like this. They're lightly saying, I play all day. What does that mean? For me, I think of you're able to do whatever you want to whenever you want. Or I'm paid to play, meaning, I receive money and provide a service and it's so fun for me, right? So, what if you were asked, how do you stay in such good shape? What would your response be? So, a couple of responses that I came up with are, it comes so naturally. It comes so naturally. Or, what are you talking about? I starve myself every day and I'm still not where I want to be. I want to be at this weight and I want to look like this and I don't have that. Which one are you choosing? Because those are both playing out in your world, right? So if you say, oh, if someone asks you, how do you stay in such good shape, right? And your response is, oh, it comes naturally. What does that imply? It implies that you're in your ideal shape. It's easy. You don't have to work hard to be in your ideal shape. And it's natural, right? That's the kind of story that you want to start telling about how you feel about yourself, about your body, these desirable stories. because everything that you speak of, everything that you assume will show up. What about, what's your relationship like with your family? This is a big one, or at least it was for me. So what's your relationship like with your family? Imagine, you're casually meeting with a new friend and they say, what's your family like? What do you say? And always remember that everything you say and what you think, those deep experiences, those deep thoughts about them, you're going to experience, right? So if your response is, oh, I don't really talk to them, or, oh, they drive me nuts, or they're really toxic, we don't have good relationships, that's what will show up, right? So the key is to understand that everything that you assume is happening around you. It's happening in your world, right? So if you're talking about your family in this kind of way, then that's how they're going to show up. They're going to continue to show up in that way. If they've shown up like that for years, it doesn't really matter. And that's the tricky part that some of us used to get stuck on, is it doesn't matter if they've been showing up a certain way for the last 10 years and that's the only way that you know them. You can see them as something different and they can begin to transform and show you that other side of them. So the way that I like to look at this is, imagine that you have like a boyfriend or an ex-boyfriend that you call as toxic or whatnot, right? Let's say you have a toxic ex and they have a new person in their life, and they also have other people in their lives who love the mess out of them, right? But you were like, oh, they were so terrible and they were this and they were that. And, you don't hate them too, because the reason that their relationships with these other people are so different and so fulfilling and light is only because of the stories that the other people are telling them. The other people see them differently than maybe you did, and their experiences are different. And it's not to invalidate anyone's experience, because all of your experiences are valid. However, when you continue to describe them as a certain way, they only have the ability to show up that way. It's just the law. That's how it is. So if you continue to see certain people as, this toxic or not able to change or whatnot, then they won't be able to, because in your world, that's the only way you see them. So it's all about states. So while in one state of consciousness, this might be true for you, right? And you have facts and evidence to show you that. However, this doesn't have to be, and it doesn't take for you to go to extreme lengths to have what you desire. All you have to do is decide what you want and claim this as true for you, despite what is showing up. So for instance, let's say that you respond to what your love life is like, right? Say, what's your love life like? Or, are you in a relationship? Or if you're asked that question, or if you think about it on your own, how would you describe your love life? My ideal love life? I have always been so loved and adored by every person I've been with. They're so catering and they love to pamper me and they love, taking care of me. Every person I've been with has been so generous and so giving and supportive. I always feel supported in my relationships. I have always had the best relationships ever. Oh, I can't wait to get married. I know it's going to be the best marriage ever. I'll only be married once because, you know, that's just what I want, right? You know, having a story like that versus a story like this, right? I've always been in relationships where I really felt unseen, unheard. You know, the people weren't really there for me like I wanted them to be. I didn't feel important to them. I spent a lot of time alone, even though I was in a relationship. I didn't feel satisfied in my relationships. And, you know, I don't really like relationships because they're not, I haven't really been in healthy ones. So I don't even know how that feels. So do you feel the difference? Like while I'm saying it, I can feel the difference in my body. I can feel the difference in just everything. It feels like talking about relationships, whether that's my experience or not, right? Talking about them in that way brings me down. It makes my body feel weighed down. It doesn't feel good. So my point is that despite this being your history, if that is true for you, you can create new relationships out of thin air that are beautiful. You can recreate and revise that your relationships have always been amazing. What does that do? Why would you do that, right? I started to do that because then there was less junk that I felt like I had to figure out and fix in order to manifest what I desired. And you don't have to fix anything to manifest. That's not my point. My point is that it made me feel lighter. It made me feel more open to my desirable relationship. It made me feel like there's the possibility that I can have my ultimate ideal relationship and it be the best ever. Because I've always had that, right? That's normal for me. I have the best relationships with everyone, but especially my romantic partner, right? You can do this too. Your toxic family or your negative family or your family that has really conflictual relationships, you're not around each other that much, you can revise and say, I did this myself, actually. I've grew up in a loving family. I grew up in a loving family. That's all I said. And you should see how connected we are now, how just loving and supportive and everything else in the past, it just dissipates. It's like it never happened. You don't have to dig it up. You don't have to say, hey, you did this and that. And you're not even in that space to where that comes up anymore. It's not a part of your life at all. And it feels amazing. It feels amazing to feel supported. It feels amazing to feel loved. It feels amazing just to feel peace. So this is your story. In every life area, this is your story. You're creating everything. So what stories are you telling?